Jubilee Party Vice Chairperson David Murathe now joins me for this conversation. Later, I'll be speaking to Edwin Sifuna, the Secretary General of ODM Party. He's also in studio ready for that discussion. Let's see what's happening differently in these two parties. Let me begin with you, David. And I want to talk about the purge and why there are other members of parliament who are targeted. But first, today was the inauguration ceremony for Museveni of Uganda, and President Uhuru Kenyatta was one of the dignitaries that was there. President Uhuru Kenyatta is set to leave at the end of next year, and he was sitting there, and Museveni has been in power since 1986, 35 years to the count, and he's sitting there and he knows he has to leave in 1 year. And Museveni will still have 4 more years after him. President Moi went, we had President Kibaki, now President Uhuru Kenyatta. As you sit here, I want you to read into the mind of the president, sitting there and watching President Museveni taking the Bible for the 6th time.
Thank you, Ken. And my first disclaimer is that I never purport to speak on behalf of the president. I can't read his mind. But I know he's a stickler for the rule of law in our country as per our constitution. For President Museveni, I think they do not have a term limit in Uganda. Maybe in their wisdom, they thought that he has something to contribute to Uganda for as long as... And remember the history of Uganda and where they're coming from. I've been on record before talking about the need sometimes in African situations to have a strong man who has a vision, who can instill law and order and discipline, and that can only happen over time.
Okay.
Now, with our president, and there has been precedents which have been set since the late President Moi did his last 2 terms in office after having served continuously for 24 years. Former President Kibaki also respected the term limit in Kenya. President Uhuru has said he will respect the term limit.
Okay.
Because for him, we have to set the standard for African leadership. Remember, our constitution is broadly based on the American Constitution, which has the 2-term limits for sitting president, unlike in the UK, for example, and most of Europe, where they have parliamentary systems, you are in office for as long as the people continue electing you.
To vote for you. But the concern with this question, Vice Chair, is it has been said, we know there are a number of leaders in this country who have said, for example, President Uhuru Kenyatta is too young, right? I know he has said he will leave at that at the end of his term. But then there is this also the notion that the positions that are being created might favor him, you know. So that's the reason why this question is important.
I don't think so, because look at President Obama. How old was he when he left office? I think Obama and Uhuru are basically like age mates. He's been out there.
Totally different jurisdictions.
I agree, but like I told you, we have modeled our constitution around the American Constitution.
All right.
The presidential system.
So as it stands, President Uhuru Kenyatta will leave at the end of his term?
He will leave at the end of his term. Okay. For some of us, we would have wished that he could have stayed a bit longer. We could have done a Putin, for example, how they do it in Russia. He's president, then he becomes prime minister.
Then it's flipped.
And then flips again.
You know, that's a wish that cannot come true.
It can't happen because, for example, do you actually expect Uhuru, under this new dispensation, to run for a member of parliament for Gatundu South?
In order to be a prime minister?
Or Musalia Mudavadi, for that matter.
Okay.
Because the only 2 seats where you will not require politicians to run for office is the president and the deputy president. And the law does not allow the president to run for president, does not allow the deputy president to run for deputy president again.
Okay. The law is silent on that. I don't know the section of the law.
It is not silent.
Where does it say the deputy president
can run for president?
Yes.
He can run for prime minister as a member of parliament, but he cannot run as deputy president for more than 2 terms.
Oh yeah, as deputy president.
It is
he can only run for president.
The presidency under the current constitution is a pair.
Yeah, that's clear.
That's clear.
Let's now talk about what's happening in the Jubilee Party. Isaac Mwaura is gone. At least he's going to fight as an outsider. But apart from him, we know you're now targeting Moses Kuria and Cecily Mbari. What is their crime?
With Moses Kuria, it's insolence. And with Moses Kuria, he has the audacity. I saw you played the clip tonight. He is running a candidate in Juja, the president's backyard, on a PEP party. He is donning the colors of another party. You were here when we talked about Caleb Kostani donning the colors of the UDA, and we had to get rid of him. You were here when I spoke to Maura, and I told him if he continues the way he's continuing, we can no longer entertain that. I think for Moses, it's very clear. He's daring Jubilee Party. He's on the ground insulting the party and its leadership. He's on the ground campaigning against the party's candidate. I think the next step should be for us to kick Moses out of the party. Let us have a by-election in Gatundu South.
Yes.
Let him run on a PEP ticket. We will run a Jubilee candidate and let the people decide.
Okay.
There's no point him hanging one leg in Jubilee and promoting the ideals of another party called PEP.
Okay.
He has to make up his mind. He can't have his cake and eat it.
So what you're saying, because of that fact, and there are a number of Jubilee legislators and leaders who in the recent past have been seen to be supporting the activities of another party. I'm going to talk about the deputy president. But why is it because of the president's backyard? Because it feels like you're targeting Moses Kuria for a specific reason, and not, it doesn't sound like the reason that he's running a separate candidate is the real reason for this.
No. For a lot of them is actually insubordination. For a lot of them is actually indiscipline. For a lot of them is like disrespect even to the office of the president. Mm-hmm. The presidency, by the way, people have sometimes tended to take Uhuru for granted because he's a nice guy. The president, Ken, has even the power of mercy. That is a person who you are actually convicted to be hanged, and he can say you will not be hanged. And what we are saying in terms of the others, as far as our relationship with UDA is concerned, the registrar of political parties wrote to UDA for their information and for their records that we have terminated that coalition arrangement with that party. It could occasion a little general election like what happened in 1966 when KPU left KANU, and you remember Jaramogi, Kagia, and the others went for a by-election. But we do not want to subject Kenyans to another rigor of elections. What we are thinking, we want to part ways nicely, let them go and grow their party, let them leave our Jubilee. We are in the process now of revamping our party, probably having new partnerships and new coalition arrangements with others, but it is definitely not UDA.
Okay.
And for your information, our former Secretary General, Veronica Maina, who has now become the Secretary General of UDA, we have expelled her also from the Jubilee Party. Okay,
so the coalition, there are possible persons or parties that you're going to get into the coalition, except UDA.
Yes, because UDA is the splinter. It is the splinter group within the Jubilee House. We didn't kick them out. They walked out. And they have
But they're fighting it, Vice Chair. They're fighting that. They're fighting that removal. You can't say they walked out and yet they're fighting that removal.
You know, they speak from both sides of their mouth. On one breath, they are busy recruiting, branding, and talking about the deputy president himself was on another station saying that his option in the next election will be under the UDA flag.
That's if the relationship in the Jubilee Party fails.
You are not dealing with hypothetical propositions here. We know for a fact the deputy president is the party leader of the UDA. And we are saying, let's shake hands. You go your way. We go our way, grow your party, we grow our party. Let's meet in the fields and let the people choose which way they go.
Don't you think, Cecily Mbarire, what is her crime? You say Moses Kuria is insolvency. What is the crime of Cecily Mbarire?
It's indiscipline. She's very insulting. You see, like her contribution, particularly in this debate of the BBI, they know the party position. And they are out there we have no problem with somebody voting yes or voting no. But when you stand out there and throw disparaging remarks on the party and on the president, you're actively recruiting and mobilizing and forming structures of another party. It is not us. That is the law. The law is if you go and propagate the ideals of another party other than the party that sent you to parliament, you have to be kicked out.
Okay.
Now, Cecily has been nominated twice. Number one, under the TNA, and number two, under the Jubilee Party. You cannot bite the hand that feeds you. And if you think you don't share common ideals going forward, the best thing is to take a walk, let somebody else who believes in those ideals of the party take your space.
They're likely to fight this. Moses Kuria is likely to fight this. I don't know his mind. He hasn't spoken to this, but he's likely to fight it. Cecily is likely to fight it. And we know there are 5 other senators who escaped this purge that Isaac Mwaura has been subjected to.
Then they are being dishonest. I mean, like Moses Kuria, you had him in parliament, including insulting members of parliament, purporting that members of parliament were bribed to vote the way they did. Now, that is a very serious allegation, Ken, that a member of parliament can cast aspersions on his fellow colleagues. As a party, we take it very, very seriously.
But it's happened before, Vice Chair.
I know they have been summoned by the Parliamentary Committee on Powers and Privileges. We are waiting to see how that pans out. But as a party, in terms of our party discipline, how do you reduce the institution of parliament like a marketplace where members of parliament are purportedly bought to vote in a certain way?
But it's happened, Vice Chair, it's happened before. Members of parliament have admitted that they were given 10,000 shillings in the washrooms in order to vote for a bill. It's not even Moses Kuria who's saying they have admitted as much.
Those who say that they have been given money, that is a crime in itself. Those are people who should be prosecuted. These are not people who are saying they were given money. We are not aware that anybody gave them any money. It is the person making that allegation. The onus is on him to prove that indeed, in fact, he should be bold enough and say he was offered the money or he took the money. Then there's a clear case of bribery. And that is criminal.
If they fight this, will you subject them? I know it's their inherent right as members of the Jubilee Party to fight such a course of action. If you decide to take it, what will happen? Because even Isaac Mwaura, who has been gazetted, his removal has been gazetted, and another one, his replacement, also gazetted. They are likely to fight this. What is the position of the party? Are you going to allow them to also subject the party to this process, or you're going to let them just go?
No. I've said very clearly, those who are using the so-called coalition agreement with UDA and want to go their way, we will let that lie, we will let it pass. But if you go out there like Moses and form a party called the PEP and come openly and start fighting Jubilee, and including those of our members who will be campaigning against the party, let's say in by-elections or in motions that the party has taken a position in parliament, the procedure is the same. We have a disciplinary procedure, which the court found we followed the correct procedure with Mwaura. With the other 5, there were issues, again, which were occasioned by our former whip, Kangata, who actually saw an affidavit to the effect that the party had forgiven those senators. The PPDT allowed us to either appeal that decision in the High Court or to restart the process afresh. Now, provided they are towing the line, we have no problem, live and let live and move forward.
So it's possible to forgive them?
But for persons like Omanga, who disparages the party and proudly goes out there swinging about how she feels she doesn't owe it to the party, and it is the party that has given her that position. Definitely, the National Management Committee, which met today, has instructed the National Disciplinary Committee to revive those disciplinary issues against that senator. And if we follow the due process and the procedure, she'll face the same fate as Senator Mwaura.
All right. In totality, give me the names of people that are in the radar of the management committee right now. Moses Kuria.
We don't have people on the radar. Actually, we don't enjoy doing this. It is the people themselves.
So who are these people?
Like I've just told you, people like Cicely, they brought it upon themselves. They're nominated. People like Moses Kuria, they brought it among themselves.
He's
they
elected.
Are elected.
Yes.
And this is even very interesting because Moses' story was through a by-election after the death of the late Josie. And we got him nominated on TNA and campaigned for him. In 2017, he almost got the ticket unopposed under the guise that he was busy campaigning for the Jubilee ticket. It is a high time we test Moses on the ground and his so-called popularity. Let him go and run on the PEP in Gatundu South. Let the party field a candidate, Jubilee,
and
under
let's
Jubilee.
see what happens.
Let's see, let the people decide.
VC, I'm concerned with one more thing about the party PEP. Before then, Moses Kuria, during the first discussions we had about reviewing the constitution when Third Way Alliance had, Moses Kuria was one of the people who talked about Punda Amechoka. He was also pushing that narrative. At that time, he even said he'll run for president. And he was still in the Jubilee party. We did not see this kind of rage against him. But even at that time, even declared he'd be president on a party, and he was even advocating for Punda Amechoka and talking against the government then. But we didn't see this happening. Why now?
Because he was, we thought he's talking within Jubilee, like he would come and campaign to get the Jubilee ticket. We have lots of people who have declared interest in running for president from Mount Kenya. Kabogo the other day said he would like to run for Jubilee. Today, I read something about the Minister for Health saying he's not going for the seat of the governor, he's going for a higher seat like
which can only be the
presidency.
Yes.
We have the governor of Muranga who has also declared his intention to run. As long as they are saying they will run within the framework of the Jubilee, once we do a national delegate conference, even ODM, they have announced whoever is interested, Oparanya is interested, Joe is interested. We have not had Raila, but we suppose, and you can ask them, that even Raila may want to run for the ticket, as long as people are talking about going for that seat within the framework of the party. Nobody has a problem with that. But when you go propagating the ideals and the philosophies of a party other than the one that sponsored you to parliament, that is the law. You get out.
Let me ask you about some of the things you've said here on this show have come to pass. You talked to me about Isaac Mwaura. You spoke to my colleague, Sophia Onuna, about Caleb Kositany and all. And one of the things that you said also was about the eviction of Deputy President. And it's almost 2 months and a half since you said that. He's still there. And the reason I'm asking that is because also he is seen as the biggest person in the Jubilee coalition propagating the activities of another political party. And he's even spoken about it on national television. If it's not possible to run under Jubilee, his option is UDA. And yet you're quiet, you're targeting, so to say, small fish, the members of parliament, the senators.
Ken, the provision for impeachment is in our constitution. Even in America, the most powerful person, Donald Trump, was impeached at the Congress level twice. He survived at the Senate. When you go for impeachment of somebody of the stature of the deputy president, you need to be sure about your numbers. And going by the numbers that we saw during this vote on the BBI, we had crossed the threshold. We had more than 235, and the threshold, I think, is 233. So it is possible to impeach the deputy president. But having said that, Ken, maybe you should ask him why, for example, he was not on hand to receive the Tanzanian president. He was not at the functions of the Tanzanian president. He was not at the dinner. He was not at the meetings of the Tanzanian president. Eviction is not the physical removal from the current mansion. Eviction is is body language.
Even locking someone out, that's part of the eviction.
Oh yes, you don't just walk into State House unless you're invited or unless you're cleared. I don't know, I don't want to speculate, but these are some things. You live in Kenya, and you should be asking him that question. Why, for example, would he not be there when the Tanzanian president, who was a vice president like himself before she became president, why would he miss such?
His invite got lost in the mail.
There is a way that the government works.
Same time when the vaccinations were happening, his invite got lost in the mail.
Well, got lost in the mail, decided to go and take Sputnik.
May 1st.
When there was AstraZeneca.
Yes, May 1st.
Even if he didn't take it, when the other ministers and the other top leaders in government, the speakers and the CJ, Mwilu, were taking theirs,
he made it clear he was not invited for that. He was not invited.
If he was not invited to that one, it was still possible for him to take AstraZeneca from any other facility, like all the other Kenyans who went after the fact.
Yeah, he explained that. Just a few days ago, today is the 11th, if I'm not wrong, he was not invited for May Day also, probably. So
says who?
Labor Day. But the two occasions he said he was not invited.
No, that we cannot comment. I think there is protocol office. I think there is the systems they use to invite. I doubt that he's honest.
About not being invited?
I doubt.
But we see the programs and he's not slated in the program.
I think that's a question you need to ask him and maybe ask the protocol office.
But now that you say eviction cannot only be physical, and it could also be being sidelined and locked out. So probably that's the eviction you're talking about. Because it's no longer
recognized. But you can either be removed or you remove yourself.
Okay.
So when we talk about the eviction hustler mansion loading, if you are not in tandem with your president, if you're not present in state functions where your president is presiding, you are either insubordinity or you are boycotting, or yes, it's true, maybe you're not invited. But I don't want to comment on what happened. The right person to answer that question would be the deputy president. And by the way, I haven't seen you invite him here for quite a while.
Okay, so going forward, the relationship between, are you worried going forward, the relationship between the Jubilee party and the other members of the Jubilee party, now that they have seen an example made out of Isaac Mwaura? Are you worried about the kind of leaders that you have within Jubilee? Because you are now being accused of being intolerant and, of course, dictatorship. And one of the panelists say the only time you see the National Executive Committee meet is when they're discussing about removing someone. You don't have party meetings.
And those people have no idea the amount of work that goes on in Jubilee headquarters, the amount of work that goes on in terms of our relations with other countries, the amount of work that goes on in our branches and our branch networks. You see, these people are on record saying they wanted to rocket from within and then go. So the NMC, the National Management Committee, works on behalf of the NEC.
Okay.
And whatever we decide to do is up to the NEC to ratify. I'll give you a good example. Just today, the new South African High Commissioner was paying a courtesy call to our party headquarters, to our party Secretary General. And a lot of issues were discussed in terms of the economy, in terms of our collaboration, whether they are going to support us with a lot of AstraZeneca, because they agreed to move with Johnson & Johnson. And return visits, we went to visit the ANC. As a party, we have been very, very active with programs with other parties globally and even locally. There's a lot and a lot of work which is going on.
Yes.
And it's not just about expelling people. We don't love expelling people. In fact, we like to recruit more people. But when you get to a stage where people feel like it's the era of the lame duck president, or that they want to position themselves with the incoming because the sitting president is on his way out, we tell them this president is not going anywhere. This president, even when he stops being the president of the Republic of Kenya, will continue being the party leader of the Jubilee Party.
Okay.
And those people who went to Jubilee because they believe in President Uhuru Kenyatta will stay in Jubilee under the leadership of President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Okay.
People will fight for seats and contest. And like I told you, as a party policy, we may even forge new coalition arrangements with new political parties and partners.
I have one more question to ask you, but I want you to comment on this video. This was President Uhuru Kenyatta in Mululu, and of course we had Isaac Mwaura in the coast during a by-election. I want to watch this, then I'll ask you one question and I'll let you go.
Nafurahi sana Mheshimiwa Deputy President William Ruto kwa sababu ya vile ambavyo umeweza kuonyesha kwamba the time ya kumaliza siasa za second liberation, wewe umetusaidia kutukomboa kwa hiyo minyororo. Na mimi nasema hivi, tangu sasa kusonga mbele, mimi nimeingia Hustler Nation. Mimi nataka kuwa na vijana wenzangu. Hatuwezi kwa kuwa tunatawaliwa na the same kind of people. Kweli ama uongo? Hebu niwaulize, familia ya Moi walitawala miaka 24 ikielekea 25. Familia ya Kenyatta walitawala miaka 15 na ingine inaenda kuisha 10. Hiyo ni miaka 50. Tunasema imetosheka hiyo, tusonge tujipole kama vijana.
Tukifunga mwaka, nilisikia wengine wakisema huko, sijui ilikuwa Msambweni, sijui wapi, anyway shauri yao huko, wanaongea wanasema watu wamechoka na uongozi wa familia hii, nini sijui nini. Sawa, choka, lakini kumbuka kura sio kwa ile tumbo ambaye imekuzaa. Kura inatokana na mwananchi. Mwananchi ndiye mwenye kura. Hakuna kiti ya kupatianwa ati hii ni yako, hii ni yako, hii ni yako. Kura ni ya wananchi hao. Ndugu yangu Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi anajua. Tuo tu tulitafuta viti kubwa. Nyinyi wa Kenya mkasema la. Kweli ama sio kweli? Si kweli? Kwa hivyo mtu kusema ya kwamba ati mtu anachoka, na ukichoka kwa debe upige kura. Na wengine ambao wanaongea hata kura yao na viti ambavyo wako navyo ni kwa sababu ya kura yangu. Wenyewe hawako kupata kura moja, ni kura yangu.
All right, just a question. Was that where the troubles of Isaac Mwaura, because it was a direct disrespect to the president, was that where his troubles started?
No. I think this hustler narrative, which was like a class thing, was actually incitement. They were creating, particularly in Mount Kenya, there was a narrative which was supposed to incite the rich versus the poor. And the president was saying, look, if you're saying these communities have been in power for the last 50 years, when a Kikuyu finishes, a Kalenjin takes, when a Kalenjin finishes, a Kikuyu takes, maybe it's time we also said that the other Kenyan communities are also deserving.
Vice Chair, that's okay, but was that the place where you broke ranks completely with Mwaura? That's what I want to know. Or it was not necessarily at that point?
No. Mwaura is talking about the hustler narrative.
Yes.
We have a problem with the hustler narrative because it is a class narrative.
Okay.
It is a narrative about the rich versus the poor. And particularly in Mount Kenya, it's actually even more dangerous than that tribal. You know, People here sometimes are regional and tribal, and it's our person. But this kind of incitement of the not so well-to-do Kenyans, and that is what Maura was subscribing to.
Okay.
I think then that is not what our party stands for.
Okay. The supplementary question I wanted to ask you, you are before PIC as David Murathe because of probably a guarantee you gave businessmen. You starting there. The fact that you went before PIC, when we said you're coming, a lot of Kenyans wanted to know, were you involved in corruption?
No. And it was very clear at that PIC meeting that it is okay to stand surety for you. If you tell me, stand surety for me, tell this guy has the goods, I have these commitment letters to deliver to KEMSA, just assure him that if he gives me the goods and I take to KEMSA, once I'm paid, I will pay him because you know me and you know him. And when they then say, no, as a guarantor, then you have to be part of that. And I'll tell you, and I made it very clear, there was nothing that was supplied, there was nothing that was invoiced, there was nothing that was paid for, but that whole narrative of the COVID billionaires, again, was a political witch hunt which was being perpetuated by the other side. And let me tell you, Ken, and this for the record, the hustler politicians, you will never see them talking about the fight against corruption. I have never seen any one of them come on television and talk about the fight against corruption or what they will do when they are in power to fight corruption. What they are doing right now is to try and suggest, fine, we are corrupt, but the other side is also corrupt. They are trying to paint the other side as corrupt so that they balance it out and say like it is a normal thing. No, this BBI has actually given timelines within which corruption cases will be dealt with. And they are not going to be able to manipulate the courts and buy time in the courts. Look at some of the charges they're having. Like that, Metheka was 530 million fraud case. Gachagua, 7 billion shillings. Arol, Kimarel. These are cases which they can use that money to delay forever the prosecution. But under the new BBI, and that is why they are fighting BBI, there will be timelines within which these cases will be dealt with and completed.
My question is, as standing as a guarantor, what of business people who don't have people in high places like you who can stand as guarantors to them? What do they do? How do they do their business in the country?
It happens every day. If I am in court and I am given bail or bond, you, Ken, would come to that court and post bail for me. Because they could even ask you to give the logbook of your car.
I'm talking about people in high places, because that is one thing that came out of the committee, that because you knew some people in high places, so it was easy for you to stand as a guarantor and assure them of the business.
No. By virtue of our position in the party, we have done a lot of interactions with businessmen from China, for example, the party in China, for example. And this is normal, a reference. If you want, for example, to do a major project, and it is either a partnership. And by the way, Ken, that whole thing, the way it was conceived initially, was supposed to be a government to government. Part of those letters that were before the PIC were copied to the Kenyan High Commissioner in Beijing. This thing was like the AstraZeneca thing. Should have been government to guarantee, and it was like a reserve for Kenya, because at that time, nobody had the stuff. Europe wanted it, America wanted it, China themselves wanted it. You can see what is happening with the vaccine. Already exhausted, and people have taken the first dose. We don't know when the second dose is going to be available.
They told us beginning of June.
Even as we are talking, the minister has said 30 million doses coming in. There are efforts and there are people who are trying to organize a government-to-government arrangement to make sure that a lot of people are vaccinated, because you can see like what is happening in places like India, where we're getting our AstraZeneca. They're dying like flies. Are they going to send the stock to us, or are they going to deal with their own people first? Not everything that happens is shrouded in corruption.
Okay. Well said, Vice Chair. As the Vice Chair, friends with the President, you don't speak to him. The other thing was, have you used your position and influence to benefit from these deals as the Vice Chair?
No,
okay.
No. I can tell you for a fact. Actually, Ken, people who don't know me, I was the largest African computer company before I even went to Parliament. I was doing more than 100 million shillings a year selling computers. I was Kenya Business Machines, IBM business partner. When people like Rigathi Gachagua were earning 3,500 as DOs in Molo, when our people were being killed by the clashes of 1992. I have grown up in business. All right? It's not taking advantage of my proximity to the president. I am not in government. I don't work for government. But I am a businessman. I was rich before I went to Parliament. When I went to Parliament, I became broke. I even had to file for a receiving order, all right? Which we subsequently lifted.
Okay. I think you have explained adequately, and it was before the committee, and we also had you. Thank you very much, Vice Chair, for coming tonight and sharing with us your perspective.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Asante sana.
Let's see what happens in the coming days as Jubilee Party streamlines and straightens up the party from within. And before I speak to Edwin Sifuna, the ODM Party Secretary General, who is sitting here next, tonight the proponents of the Building Bridges initiative are calling on the High Court